The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is losing a record number of its membership.
So plain and precious.
Travis Wayne Goodsall. So, this morning, when I went to check on the latest episode of John Oliver, which he did on chocolate, and so don't be concerned. Well, you should be concerned, because it's always a scandal about whatever topic he's covering, so scandal is now with chocolate. I saw my video I did yesterday with the first and last letter of Paleo Hebrew there on the screen for the thumbnail, and it only had 50 views. If you'll notice, YouTube declares that my number of subscribers are 1,030. There's a problem. Where are you? Or, the more likely scenario, because of analytical programs, those are ghost subscribers. And so I have no idea the actual legitimate number of subscribers. YouTube is just trying to make me feel good with deception using their analytical program. And that's the more likely scenario. Because technically I had upwards of 100 people per day near the beginning when I got up and going. 100 per video. And then I watched as the church attacked me and my videos started to tank. As I was lucky to get 20 views per video per day. And then conference time would come around and I'd shoot up in the number of subscribers. But back in 2012, I believe it was ABC 4. Is that the right channel here in Utah? The local news had an article that went viral, and I've been using it in clips throughout the years, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has lost a record number of its membership. And Marlon K. Jensen, which I had a Book of Mormon class from him at Rick's College back in the day, came out and claimed that, and he gave me a, well, You see, I have to clarify, Michael Jordan, the god of basketball, who's now ascended into heaven, he's not dead. He's just retired. The story is told far and wide about how as a kid he sucked at basketball. He had to learn to play the game. He had to practice in order to become the god of basketball. And so, yeah, likewise, when I was in basketball, they told us the same story. You know, you have to practice. And you too, as a white guy, can be great at basketball. And so that white men can jump. And nonetheless, so yes, I too had to study my Book of Mormon. I am not the God of the Book of Mormon, just naturally, not from a spiritual witness. I had to do my study and research in order to become the foremost Mormon scholar, theologian. And yes, I have those gifts. Mormons are upset. I'm not supposed to have those gifts. How'd I get them? Who gave them to you? Tell us who that was. And so I went on to become the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East because of my study of the Book of Mormon, learning about the scientific process of developing faith into reality so that I don't become reality-challenged Ken. I really liked Barbie for the fashion. I was so excited. And then you get fascist Barbie and dysfunctional Barbie and Mormon depression Barbie. And so that's what I've witnessed over the years, is that despite the 3 million Mormons that are active, there is still a rebellious faction among them. And the church is unaware of this because my brother sucks at his PhD. Right, Todd? And yet me, because I use the Book of Mormon to learn how to learn with the scientific process of agronomy that is in all scriptures, not just the Book of Mormon, I would go on to become the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, which allowed me to go into any field and learn the system and make any necessary corrections or produce documents and publish them as I have done. No PhD needed once you realize how to learn how to learn. And this is something that the universities don't want you to know because they need money. And the money comes from students and donations. And so if they reveal the secrets to you in grade school, kind of ruins it for the upper level education. But the whole system is, John Oliver has done a video on that. Nonetheless, in the church, the church used to be anti-psychology. When self-help books came out, they were blatantly opposed to those books. And so even the sex relation self-help books, men are from Mars, women are from Venus type books, the church was opposed to those as well. And yet they were contradictory because Stephen Covey, did his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is not much different. And yet still to this day, you will hear the press or government leaders or business leaders and others quote his book. We've created a win-win situation. That's from Stephen R. Covey, Mormon. And so not only have we taken Glenn A. Larson's Battlestar Galactica quotes to heart, we've also embraced Stephen R. Covey's. But these are all psychological, self-help stuff. There are some errors with Stephen R. Covey, but we're not going into that for this video. And it doesn't help when he had to come out with a new edition, an 8th. Oops, I forgot this one. And that's where the problem in psychologists lies, is that they're just making things up. And they impose them on us through books or anybody they can trap in their web to come see them on their couch. And then they impose their doctrinal views on you. And then you then go out and spread the word. You're mentally retarded. You're mentally retarded. You're dysfunctional Barbie. You're malfunctioning Barbie. Just like Barbie did. It was all that psychological abuse being put onto women who go, I'm dysfunctional too. I'm depressed too. I relate to that, Barbie. No! That's not how it works. And so, yeah, misery loves company. And so misery loves a miserable Barbie doll. And it's sad because I was in the older singles ward. And the majority of the people who attended were women. And I was at the 72 South Fort Union Boulevard singles ward, which was a branch, because the stake president was keeping it a branch so that he can obtain the money from the branch to be used for his other wards in the stake. So that we, as older singles, didn't get the funding that we were supposed to receive from the church for attending sacrament meeting, because our sacrament meetings were the most popular, as they would be packed all the way back to the stage in that gymnasium, the cultural hall from Freemasonry days, as well as the whole chapel. And so, yeah, the men, I saw numerous types of Mormons. There were men who I saw one who had an O license plate on his nice fancy convertible. And so I could see that there are men who purposely go to the singles wards to look for a hookup. They're not interested in a relationship and a commitment. They're there for a hookup, literally. In the Mormon church, attending Mormon church, in the singles ward. And yeah, we did have those grandpas who could not become a member of the branch because they were too old and they didn't qualify, who were coming in and telling the women, I can celestialize you. But the women, because they still can have a baby, don't utilize him. You know, he has to go to the geriatric singles ward, and where he can finally get a woman who will settle for him, because they've lost all hope, because they're now unable to have a baby because of menopause. And then I saw the guys who were there, who were the most faithful that you're gonna get, women, and still they weren't good enough. And so, yeah, I know what that's like. It's sad how the church has damaged Mormon women, and many of the damaged women abuse Mormon men because they don't see them as good enough for them. They're not making enough money to live the lifestyle that they want to live, and they're willing to go to the final years not having children, holding out for the perfect Ken. And it's sad. Literally, it was not just a meat market, as it was called. It was an abusive mosh pit of just singles ward members, just all thrown in there, and they're just all abusing each other, knocking each other down, not understanding that it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints who set us all up for failure. And that's why the prophets are still divided as to whether or not singles wards should even exist, or whether they should just cancel them all and keep them at the universities and send the rest back to their family ward, as there have been instances of that. And I remember one woman who I dated once in the older singles ward and was obviously rejected. She did immediately find another guy, and so that's the Jessica Alba movie where she's got the penguin panties, where everybody who dates him finds their true love, and it's some other guy immediately after. Well, I didn't get to have sex, but after dating a woman, it seems like they found their husband for all eternity. That was frustrating for me, to say the least, because there I was, divorced, being abused by Mormon women all over the place. And then those Mormon women whom I dated would go on and get married. But this one woman who got married after I dated her obviously rushed to get pregnant because time is running out. And I had found out through other women who was in contact with her that they were taking a vacation into the mountains, and on the way up, car accident. She's dead. They're all dead. All three of them. And it's sad that she thought she finally got her perfect husband and was living her perfect life, was now having her token one child, and a simple car accident took it all away. And in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there's always been that abusive behavioral response of, if by chance you see a frown, do not let it stay. Quickly turn it upside down and force that frown away. as little kids were being taught to never mourn for those who mourn. And so when Nelson comes out in this conference and he literally hypnotizes Mormons to think celestial, that's exactly where he got it from. You know, when your life is suffering and the church is filthy rich and prosperous and you're not, think celestial. And it's just crazy. The majority of the women who were in attendance, and the majority were women, as the church's stats indicate that the majority of singles are male. They're just not going to church. The women were the ones who were going to church in the singles ward. But the majority of the women were career women, by far. They were career Barbie, and they were high career women. You know, lawyers and judges and business women. And the majority of them, or at least the higher percentage, were in the psychological field of study, whether it be a psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, therapist, any of those in that field. And they were the abusers. The greatest abusers were the single psychological women, psychologist women, because they were abused by the church growing up, and so that then inspired them to go into psychology to try to fix themselves by forcing others' agencies and bullying them to fix them and reach their potential, which psychology never fixes anybody. They addict you to coming to see them. And Nelson warned you about addictions. It's just like porn. And so despite the church being anti-psychologist throughout the earlier generations, the church was still being contradictory and embracing what they chose to use from psychology. And that was during the exact same time when the church says, we embrace all truth, wherever it may come from, we embrace it. And so, yes, Christians or Mormons who wanted to be approved by Christians disregarded Joseph Smith History, verse 19, to say that Christians have truth too. It's in the Bible. Therefore, we embrace all truth. And so there are Mormons who, embraced a Christian attitude and were demanding that the church use Jesus more often in the church. There's too much on the Book of Mormon, too much on Joseph Smith, not enough on Jesus. And that's the biggest complaint of Christian converts, is that too much on the Book of Mormon, the keystone of Mormonism, and too much on Joseph Smith, the founder. And this Christian element has been trying to overthrow the church by doing away with the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. And to some extent, they have succeeded. But saw many women who were defeated. Depression Barbie. And there was that concept that Oakes told the 16-year-old girls back in May of this year to sit on the couch and wait for the guy to propose marriage over the phone. There were literally those women who would not take the initiative to go after the guy they had a crush on. They went to church faithfully. They went to the activities. They went to the temple activities. And yet, they would not take any initiative to let a guy know they like him. Because the church says, no, you're a whore. You have to wait for the guy to come to you. And it was frustrating for me, because here I am being told I'm not their type. I'm damaged goods being divorced and being poor, not having the lifestyle that they're looking for. They were looking for a successful man, and those were married. The older singles ward is for damaged men. There is no successful man in the older singles ward. And women cannot understand this. Because they're career women. They're successful. Where's the equivalent for men? It's because of their success, they got a woman already. And they're not divorced yet. And so, yes, those who did realize this have to wait for the guy to get divorced. And so there's some Mormon scandals of people who are waiting for the guy's spouse to die so that he can then marry her. There's a news story recently about that. Women hoping for the guy's wives to die so that they can then be celestialized with them. And it's scary, to say the least. But there is this rebellion, the ordained women. Even when Kate Kelly was still around and not excommunicated yet, the ordained women were still a secret combination within the church. They didn't dare expose themselves for fear of church retaliation, which, yes, that's exactly what the church did, and excommunicated Kate Kelly. And when I talked with a woman who said that she was part of that group, and I had no idea who they were at the time, I was telling her, oh yeah, Joseph Smith gave priesthood and priesthood office to women on 17th of March, 1842. And shh, no, shh. You're embarrassing me. I'm gonna get caught. Women are literally afraid of the truth. They don't want to know the truth. They've been so abused by the church that the ordained women movement has nothing to do with the truth. And so it's still in existence despite Kate Kelly being excommunicated. And the church did their little stunts as they've been doing, purposely to try to disband that ordained women group. But they still exist. They're just a super secret, sacred society combination in the church. rather than realizing, wait a minute, if the church is abusing us, it's not true. We need to leave. And women don't understand, because like the Barbie movie illustrated it perfectly, which psychologists have set it all up for. Women have power over men. And yes, women abuse that power. And they don't understand it. Because we are not taught proper sex ed, which is the majority of the causal problems that are involved. And the church promotes that. And so women don't realize that they need to know the sexual nature of a man. Not to be scared and no longer give daddy a hug. And to get angry with daddy. But no one understand their role, knowing their sexual natures. So that there is no confusion, there is no embarrassment on the subject matter, shame, guilt, so that you don't go into a marriage and it's already destroyed because you were taught incorrectly. Expecting the other to be a certain way and behave a certain way when he can't. There's more to say on that, obviously, that I'm not getting into. But with the church, they used LDS Family Services. And in the beginning, they used to have the LDS hospital. And so they had medical doctors that were involved. But they did away with the LDS hospital. They gave it up. And then when the gay marriage got passed, gays were now wanting to adopt babies. Got a sneeze coming on. And so the church, with that, gave up on their adoption agency, which was child trafficking, because of the malicious misinformation on sex and banning abortion here in Utah, when the 14th Amendment already gives women their rights to choose. And now that's been overthrown by our Supreme Court, that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, working with the Council for National Policy, was the causation of overthrowing it. You have the church, instead of telling raped girls that they have to have the baby and then give it up to the church's adoption agency so that the church can make money off of them, you now have psychologists in family services who are now being used to tell women they're mentally damaged, they're mentally retarded, they're mentally diseased, they're mentally ill, they have mental health challenges, whatever bullying, abusive term they use. It's all the same thing. It's all a lie. Psychology created Depression Barbie, because they got people in society to believe them and to spread the word and bully other people. During the 80s, I saw it. Psychologists created the sexual tension between blondes and brunettes. I remember being asked by my peers, which do you like, blondes or brunettes? Redheads? No, you can't have that. You have to choose, blondes or brunettes. Redheads. It doesn't fit in our category box, Travis. You chose wrong. And so the church, even though they were using psychology for conversion therapy on gays, were transforming to use psychology for everything. And so the BYUs started replacing science fields with psychology, tampering with the curriculum. And so they're all destroyed now. And thus, how I can go in and fix the field is because I can recognize the psychological tampering in all of those fields. And thus why Todd sucks and I'm the foremost expert in his own field that he got a PhD in. And the church has gone on with the hotline. Bishops send the troublesome rape victim to social services to get them to confess that it was their fault and they're the sinner and they need to be excommunicated and disciplined from the church, rather than go after the priesthood leader that sexually raped them, to protect the church from lawsuits. There's a lot of lawsuits that had been against the church, and because of the structure of the church, the prophets get sued for the actions of leadership down at the lower levels. Whereas the Catholic Church, when a parish is involved with sex trafficking of the deacon boys, the choir boys, the Pope never gets in trouble. But he's expected to give a statement condemning these parish priests and to remove them from their posts. But the Pope never gets sued for the actions of the individual parish priests. That's the difference. See, the Catholic Church figured out how to protect themselves that way. Whereas the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is set up, designed by Brigham Young to sabotage itself, and thus be responsible for the actions of the members. And so thus the hotline was created to send people to family services psychology to bully the victims into submission or be excommunicated because they refuse to do that. So what you see with Tim Ballard, for example, are Mormon girls and the Mormon couple who, because of the church's misinformation on sex ed, believed that they had committed sex crimes. And thus, they were threatened to be weapons against Tim Ballard to protect M. Russell Ballard, who's not competent to be the acting president of the Quorum of the 12, even though Oakes is now the activated president of the 12 because of Nelson falling. But yeah, I can obviously keep on going on this, but there is a rebellion within the church that even though the church are being misinformed by my brother and others, if there are any, the church is collapsing. You have Desnat, for example, which we all know as Deseret Nation, which is a counter-government, which is a terrorist group seeking to overthrow the government and restore the original Deseret Nation of Brigham Young. And yet, when they were called out on it, because of their extreme violent views on forcing people to obey, or the javelin will get you, Tiankum's javelin, they, cowered and, we're just trying to take away agency so that they obey the prophet. Dumbass. Still Lucifer's plan. Trying to deceive us. They don't want to come out and own themselves as criminals, terrorists, seditious conspirators like the church. But that's exactly what they are. And so you have those within the church that are helping to promote the church's agenda. And I see those guys. And women, I see those guys. I know those guys. Women. So, I have forgot to put the thumbnail picture that I've been using lately about the 3 missionaries asking missionaries to come home because of Heber C. Kimball's prophecy. I'm just fulfilling it. And it's not working. The original video did, but it's now been shut down by YouTube. There's a super sacred secret about 2 of those 3 women, and I will not share it with you. I don't do that. Your secret is safe with me, women. But, yeah, missionaries do need to come home. They're already committing crimes for the church. But this danger is what I've been trying to warn you about. And here we are at 42 minutes into the video. Is that the psychological damage that the church is causing is distracting you from the threat to your lives. That it's not going to be a car accident going up on a mountain to the ski resorts or a cabin. It is Armageddon. It is real. The church has paid the Judas price to cause it. And that's what I've been doing my videos for all these years, is to warn you of this threat. And you're just not listening. There are people who hear, but you're not listening. You need to act. It's not just about hearing the word and believing it. You've got to act on it and make it reality. You've got to do your part to prepare for it. And unfortunately, there are Mormons who are rebelling because of the prophet's lack of warning you, because they're the causation of the problem. And you get that couple who kidnapped the teenage boy from Arizona, and they get caught at the Alaskan border. There will be more of this, as Mormons are seeing Armageddon's reality and are in fear because they've not been hypnotized to think celestial. That is insufficient for the leader of the church to lead and protect the sheeple of Mormonism. He's supposed to protect us, and you protect us by correctly informing us. He's a religion This isn't a military operation that has to remain covert so the enemy doesn't know our secret plans to destroy them. This is a religion, and he has failed you. And we are witnessing that failure with Mormons who go their own way and are obviously going the wrong way because of the misinformation that the church has given them. It's a sabotage. And so that encourages the Mormons who didn't do that to go, oh yeah, I gotta follow the prophet because I might end up like them. It is not an extremist position. It's not one way or the other. They're both wrong. You're missing the point. And so it would be awesome if I actually had 1,030 followers who were paying attention to every single video all the way to the end of each video. Because I can give you more information that way, rather than having to keep repeating the same information, hoping that one of those ways would get through to the majority of people. It just, YouTube won't allow it. And so that's the sad fate that I see coming. And it's in the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith also warned you of it. And you don't see it. And yet you're still rebelling against the church. The secret, super sacred, secret rebellion. But it's still not going to produce the desired results you want. And that's the sad reality of the church's trap. So this should be long enough for me to have breakfast and bathe and shave. I think I might have to do laundry today. Alright, anyway. Priesthood Barbie, or Priesthood Ken, and Barbie Mormon. It's Molly Mormon, and anyway, I'm done.